So we're talking about marriage. And most people get married because it's the person you love, this person you want to spend your life with. But do we realize how much of a contract marriage is? Marriage is a legal document which gives you certain rights and responsibilities that you don't have in a relationship or over the belongings that you and your spouse have. And I think a lot of people ignore this. So when you get into conversations like with prenups and even divorce and child visitation and things like these are things that have to be negotiated and signed off on. Even being the next of kid, if you were to fall sick, and who decides what happens to you when you're in that hospital, that goes to your spouse, who is your next of kin, because your spouse has rights over everybody else. So when we get married, again, we do it for love. We do it because this person we want to spend our life with. But how much do we consider it, marriage, a contract? So I'm gonna throw that out to the group. When y'all were getting married, did you consider that you were entering into a contract with another person?
It was no big thing. If you are in love with the person you're with, then you're gonna sign it. But again, I think it depends on what stage you're at in life. So if you're younger and you ain't got much, it's not a big deal. But if you're at a point where you're more middle aged and you've accumulated some wealth on your own, things might look a little different.
Even if you're poor or young or whatever, you don't need to have assets for that legalese to come into play. For instance, there are people who have lived together and the mother didn't get along with the girlfriend, and so the mother's making all the funeral decisions and is keeping the girlfriend away, and the girlfriend can't come to the funeral. You can't do that. She
don't have the title. Right.
She don't have the title.
Right.
That's why these things matter.
Well, that's why you get married. That's the whole point. Because now I'm saying that if anything happens to me, I trust you to handle the business.
I agree with what Professor G said, right? Whether right or wrong. I think when you're young, you're in the process of trying to build wealth, trying to gather accumulated assets or what have you. You're not thinking about that. I wasn't thinking about that. Now you may get to a place where, oh wow, now we got to divide this up, and now it's like, dang, because of divorce. But I don't know that you're thinking about that now. On the flip side, if you have some wealth, you got a career halfway behind you, you're middle age, you're getting remarried, or you're getting married for the first time, you already own like a house, an investment property, a huge bank account, or whatever. Now it's different, like because now it is a contract, and now I'm getting ready to walk into an engagement where this person's entitled to half, and I think you're kind of foolish in the 2000s to not be thinking about that.
I think I think that's a problem, because both you and Professor have said this. Kind of like, if you're young, you don't have much. It's not a contract. It's always a contract.
No, it's a contract, but I don't feel like there's much risk in the contract because we ain't got none.
There's always risk. And it kind of goes to what Ms. Mingle was saying. So when you start having kids, and marriages do break up. 50% of marriages end in divorce, right? So now you got to get into that legal part, the termination of that contract. So now, how does the child support work out? How does the visitation work out? There's a lot of.
When you going into a marriage, I mean, yeah, it's true. If you thinking that much of divorce and all that, you probably should just not even do it. And it's true that most marriages end in divorce, and that's why the few marriages that work, they're very cherished and very special. So it's like, if you not really planning to be with that person your whole life, and you're already feeling, you got to sign this, sign that, and we might get divorced and child support, and it does happen. I get that, but don't even do it. If you jumping in, just jump right in, bro. That's what I'm going to tell you.
I think no one really thinks, to Professor G's point again, right? You're getting in because you think it's going to last forever. You think this is going to be my person. It's going to be my partner, my ace boo coon, my person, whatever. And we about to ride or die. And if you're already thinking about plan B, if you're already thinking about what am I going to do if this thing doesn't work out, in my opinion, you create plan Bs, they will get exercised Full
But
stop.
that's just one aspect of it, because even with the plan B, is just you're assuming certain debts. Everything comes communal. You know, when once you get married, you're intermingling your finances. So if you've got a perfect credit score, C square, you've been taking us on the housing journey.
Mhm.
So if you've got a 720 credit score, and then you marry somebody and their credit score is -3, what does that do to your possibilities of getting a loan?
Right.
Right? That's
Well, if that's why I go to, if it's a real relationship where you could build, you're going to talk to the person and work with their credit on, you're going to say, hey, this is what I did to fix up my credit. Here's what you could do to fix up your credit. And hopefully they'll follow your lead, especially if you're the one who has the better credit and you know what to do. Now, if they don't come around right away, you could be patient, see how it plays out. But it can't just be everything is dollars and cents, because that's how, you get into, a female or somebody who's just out for the financial benefit, because they're
So
always talking dollars and cents.
I think if your marriage is going to last, though, you have to be realistic, right? I think, we said it earlier in the other segment. I think it reminds me of a famous Maya Angelou quote: "When people show you who they are, you have to believe them." All
Right.
right. If
I
my
agree.
credit is 820 and your credit is 500, I need to believe that. What kind of decisions have you been making over a long period of time that led you to that 500 credit score? If there's not a really good story where it's mostly not your fault, then I need to understand that I am hitching my wagon to that decision making style.
there's a lot that goes into this, because there's a lot of people that will just live together
Hmm.
and think marriage is kind of a burden. But then you'll see a story that comes along where it's like this person lived with this other person for 20 years, and then that person passed away, and then that
Mm,
person's house went to their kid, and then that person who should have been the wife or husband
right.
should have gotten that house, but since they didn't get married, the
Right.
kid gets it and puts that person out.
Make an honest
So
woman. That's what you
Right.
gotta do, bros.
so
You
you
gotta
No
know,
make an honest.
house, no IRA
Is she
beneficiary, all
worth
that
it?
stuff.
yeah, you got it. There's a lot of things, 401ks. There's a lot that goes into
Hmm.
this that I think that we really have to think about. But you know what? We're going to think about that another time. Fantastic experience.